Welcome to Women in the Arena podcast, the podcast celebrating women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. I'm your host, Audra Egan, and our mission is to elevate the value, strength, and resilience each woman brings to the world. Without further delay, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome in, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me again this week. This week, we're going to have a lot of fun. I cannot wait for you to meet my guest. My guest this week is Laura Carroll, and she has a lot of energy, and I can't wait for you to meet her. Laura Carroll is an author, and she's an esteemed author, and for 20 years, she has studied women without children. She's the author of 6 books, including the book we're going to discuss today, which is A Special Sisterhood, 100 Fascinating Women from History Who Have Never Had Children. She has also contributed to textbooks, has been featured on network television, many radio talk shows, and public radio. Her articles and work have appeared in many print and digital media, including Fortune, The Wall Street Journal, The Guardian, New York Magazine, and Women's Health. It is my pleasure and my honor to introduce to you Laura. Laura, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to talk to you. This is just, sometimes I just get so lucky because your publisher reached out to me with your book, and I was instantly grabbed and drawn in because it's unique. It's something that I had never even heard of. No one has ever approached me with this. And I thought, oh my gosh, what an interesting study. Because let's first start off with this society of ours looks to women that do not have children, either by choice or by chance, that they don't have children as there's something wrong with them. And there is absolutely, positively nothing wrong with women that are childless for whatever reason. And you have chosen for 20 years to work to prove that. So tell us, how did you start in this work of dispelling the myth of I'm broken because I have no children?
Well, when I'd been married 10 years, this was in the late 90s, and happily married. And all my friends who were married, they were starting to have kids. And I looked around and went, well, where are the long-time married couples, happily married couples that don't have kids? And in our case, it was by choice. And I was looking for books, anything, and I didn't find anything. So I decided to find out myself. And back then it was pre-Google, etc. Things were just getting going. So I advertised, in newspapers, magazines for couples who had been married at least 10 years. There were certain criteria, and my answering machine started to blow up. I mean, that was the days before voicemail and cell phones almost. And I knew I was onto something. So I ended up interviewing over 100 couples, did in-depth interviews with 40, and then with editors, my publisher got it down to 15 that best represented all of the interviews. And it turned out to be a book called Families of Two, and it was really well received. So, and I just launched from there and went, this is something that needs to be talked about. The people I interviewed were so thrilled that they said, finally somebody wants to talk to us. And that's men and women. So that sparked it, and every question I've had since is, you'll see in my list of books, it's trying to find the answers to the questions that led to the next thing. So that's what started it all, was my own curiosity.
I mean, the obvious reason why people look at childless couples as to why they don't have children is that it is that programmed old historical of, furthering the human race, which is, for obvious reasons, historically, that's what you were trying to do is make sure that there were enough humans so they would survive for the next age. Well, we don't have that problem anymore.
No, we have more than enough people on the planet right now.
Yeah,
right.
We have plenty of people to go around for a very long, long time. Even with birth rates decreasing, we still have plenty of people to go around.
That's
right. But it's so ingrained in us, we are still looking at those that, like I said, by chance or by choice, that why don't you have kids? And then I've also seen people that are like, they look at them with pity.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which is not the case.
Somehow by not having kids, your life is not going to be able to be truly fulfilled, and you're not going to know true love, etc. All these beliefs they're very old. They have a lot of dust on them, and many of them were never even true to begin with. So, that whole system of beliefs I call pronatalism, and it's been around with us for many generations, and that's the topic of one of my books called The Baby Matrix. And it's like the movie. Once you see through that matrix, you can't unsee it. So, and whether you not have kids by choice, the judgments come with that. You don't have children for whatever reason, say you have trouble having them, judgments come with that. No matter how we get there, women are judged. That we have in common. And men too, just to some degree as well. It's talked less about, but they don't get off the hook either when they don't, become fathers or, have their legacy continue, etc.
Yeah, and it's this continuation, like you said, of a very old, dusty mindset.
Yes.
So you have taken it one step further with your study, and you thought, in order to break this mindset, I need to demonstrate for a younger generation, make it easy for them to digest, and for them to see that it is not only is it okay to make a different choice, but a different choice has been made for a very long time. And these women are not only are they okay, they are thriving, and their lives in many ways have impacted what you do today, right now. This is what I love about this book.
It goes back a long way. Yeah.
Long way. Like I said, I was so excited when your publisher sent me a copy of this book. I literally squealed when she sent this to me because I'd never seen anything like it. It's the illustrations are stunning because, like I said, it's done geared towards younger readers. So it's easier for them to digest.
Yes.
It's easier for them to understand. It's presented in a way so they don't feel intimidated. And and it's also historically correct.
Mm-hmm.
But I was entertained.
Great. So, well, that was my intention it's really for anybody. But yes, I wanted to, unlike my other books that are, one could say more serious and research oriented, but yet written for the lay public. This was like, I want young women in high school, college, I want them to see that there have been women who've had lives without kids, without having ever been mothers for generations. And it really doesn't matter how they got there. It was more I wanted to show they are out there living their lives, and they do it in a myriad of ways. And I try to focus on many different countries. So it's not like, well, it's just the women in the United States or North America. It's like everywhere. So to expand their thinking and perceptions of what they may envision for themselves as they get older, not saying that they not have children, but expand their thinking of like, what is really going to be best for me? I want people to make that decision. And in order to do that, we need to get all kinds of information, not just the assumptions that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. And when you and I had first met, I had shared with you that when my husband and I first got married, I first of all didn't even think about it. I was not one of those people that even dreamt about getting married. I was not one of those girls that bought a bridal magazine at 16 and dreamt about my wedding, and I never did. It was kind of autopilot. Honestly, no one was more surprised that me getting married than me. Honestly, never even thought about it. And having kids, never even thought about it. That just sort of happened. But had other choices been presented to me, I might have made other choices. I am certainly not saying that I regret the choices I have. I have 2 amazing children. I have incredible children. I do not regret them at all. But I didn't know I had other choices. I had no idea. No clue. You're just saying that there are lots of different ways to live your life, and you wanted to present different options so that young women, young girls, teenagers know they have just as much of an opportunity of a full, fulfilled life for whatever choice they decide to make.
That's right.
And whatever way they want to live it.
That's right. Right. I didn't get that when I were their age. I just looked around and saw everybody doing the same thing. And my husband and I decided to do something different. And so it definitely was a journey to find people like us. And also, the people that were dear friends of mine that were having kids, we always stayed close. But for a while, their lifestyles and priorities shifted, and tending to friendships was, through transitions like that, it was a unique experience that I think, young people and adults all the way up, they experience it still today. Even the older adults, they experience it when they're grandparents, and then they have friends who aren't grandparents. So, it just, there's some interesting relational things that happen all around whether you have children or not. That too is old.
Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to share some of the stories of these women from her book. And what she has done is she has separated them into categories. And I have picked 6. And Laura may pick a few more depending on what kind of time we've got. But we originally thought that I would pick 4, but I just couldn't settle on 4. And I was just finally like, well, this is my show. I can do what I want. So I picked 6. So
6 it is.
So 6 it is. And if we have time, maybe I'll ask Laura what her favorite is. If she can pick one, it's probably like, picking her favorite color. And I guess it depends on the day. But we're going to start with the goddesses.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to pick my favorite goddess because I think that she's just complex and interesting, which is Artemis.
Oh, yes. Artemis. Yes.
And of course, in case you guys don't all remember your Greek mythology, she's the daughter of Zeus, and she's very complex, and she's very strong, and she's just complicated.
Well, I liked her because she's known to be not only the goddess of animals, wilderness, even childbirth, but also the protectress of girls up to the age of marriage. So I like that because it's not just a goddess who's out there, killing animals and fighting and a warrior woman. She is those things, but she also is a protector of children. So it's not like she hates them or doesn't want anything to do with them. She's very, the mythology, she's very devoted to them. So I like that.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting that she's devoted to children, even though throughout Greek mythology, she didn't actually have any of her own, which I think is really... I think that's such an interesting symbolism there, that you can be devoted and love them and not physically have them of your own. So I thought that was a really important thing to point out. But she also happens to be one of my favorite Greek goddess because she's complicated.
I recall too that she the gift she asked for from her powerful father was to be an eternal virgin. So here we know why she didn't have any kids, but she asked for that so that she asked not to become a mother, to have the gift to not be, but yet she then with being a protectress of girls, she became sort of the mother of many, many, many girls. So there's, Oprah's an example of that in our day as well. She
is.
Lots for little young women and girls all over the world.
She has. That's a great comparison. Actually, I hadn't even thought of that. That's a great comparison. The next, there's a little bit of a theme here because this is Women of the Arena. So there's a little bit of a theme here.
Okay.
We're going to warrior women.
All right.
And this is Opha Mae Johnson.
Oh, let me bring that up here to my memory. Oh, yeah. The Marine, the first female Marine. What a story, huh?
Yes. Hoo-ah.
Boy, she, World War I had been going on, and the Marine Corps needed to, fill administrative jobs while the guys were overseas. And the Marine Corps invited the women to enlist. And on the first recruiting day, as I recall, Oprah was the first woman in she was in line, but she was first in a long line there waiting to enlist. And so she ended up, being selected, and they had to get really strong mental and physical skills, and really only a few women actually made that cut, and she was one of them. I think by then she was in her late 30s. So they trained and skilled like all the other Marines, and as history has it, they were tough, and she was one of them.
Very first female Marine.
Yeah.
Yes. That is not for the faint of heart, especially not then. What year was that?
Oh, gosh. Probably, the war ended around 1919, so it was several years before that. So, yeah, and at that time, again, like I say, she was in her 30s, and she was still, physically doing the same things that the guy Marines were doing, which, at that time was pretty impressive. Women didn't work out like they do today, or many anyway. So, yeah, she had some gumption for sure to just say, I'm not only going to enlist, I'm going to be first in line. And, little did she know she would be the first. So, yeah, she was quite the,
World War I.
She had something.
Yes, she did.
Definitely paved the way for women in the military, for sure.
She did. And she's probably paved the way for we have some female colonels that are in the Marines right now that are fighter pilots and are leading entire regiments of military men and women all over the world. So it's because of her that's even possible.
Yeah, more badass women out there today, for sure. You bet.
Yes, absolutely. It's because of that woman that it made it possible that all the other branches invited women to join them. And now that there are women that have thriving careers in all the branches of the military because of that woman. Now we're going to move to leaders.
Okay.
And this one jumped out at me because I have not watched it yet. I'm saving it. I want to watch it. That she has a new Netflix documentary, and it's Shirley Chisholm.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, that's, what, I've seen it. Actually, I've seen the doc. It's very good. Yeah, really good. And what is the gal who plays her?
Oh, man.
She's got pipes. Really good singer. Gosh, she's not just coming to me right now. Anyway, it's very well acted. So Shirley, God, she's another one where, she started her career in something completely different. I mean, she started her career in education. And while she was in that field, she got involved in local politics. And little did she know that would be her total future. I mean, before around age, I think it was around 40, she was elected to the New York State Assembly. And then she made her way up to the U.S. House of Representative. And she was the first Black woman ever elected to Congress, which was amazing. So, and then once she won that, she'd go on to be reelected for, I believe it was 6 terms. So obviously she was doing something right.
Yeah. Ladies, she's the one that coined the phrase, if they don't have room for the table, bring a folding chair.
Yes. And she also had the chutzpah where I think by her late 40s, she said, you know what? I think I'm going to run for president.
And this was in the 60s.
Yeah. Yeah. So she ran in the U.S. presidential primaries. And during her campaign, was it 2 or 3 times people tried to assassinate her? She survived assassination attempts. And now, also, I think as a Black woman, she didn't exactly expect to be nominated for the Democratic candidate for president, but she did it so that it would spark change and get people thinking like, well, why the heck not? To get used to seeing Black women in really, really high up leadership positions. So, she really did that, but she continued to fight for, an education, for healthcare, equal rights in all of her congressional positions. So later she was, and she just really started breaking a new barrier to say, yeah, a woman, even a Black woman can run for president. Just stellar. And she's, of course, got many, many medals and awards, and including the Presidential Medal of Freedom, I believe. So, yeah, she was really honored for all her great work in her life.
Just an amazing woman. Amazing woman.
Yeah, the documentary should be. It's well overdue, for sure.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing it. We're now moving to social changers. And everybody should perk up here. Catherine McCormick.
Now, what made you pick her?
Well, I think it's timely because if I'm not mistaken, she is the architect of allowing women to take birth control pills. Heaven forbid you have birth control pills.
Well, it even started before that, before the pill. I mean, she heavily financed the development of the pill. But before that, she was instrumental in getting the diaphragm to the United States, where at one time they were not allowed here. There was a Black market for them and not enough of them. So she came up with a crazy plan, but it ended up working for a while. She posed as a scientist. She went to diaphragm manufacturers in Europe, got lots of orders, and then hired seamstresses to sew the diaphragms into the garments. And that's how they got shipped into the United States. I mean, what crazy idea. And it actually worked for a while. So the customs, people just saw the clothes and didn't suspect a thing. And so just all these women were walking in with all these rubber diaphragms inside their clothes.
Just diaphragms were Black market?
Yes. Couldn't have them in the States. Yeah. But when her husband died, her husband was, had he was a wealthy businessman, and he got ill. I believe he had dementia kind of early in life, too. So she cared for him for many years while all this other stuff was going on. But when he passed away, she got a sizable estate. And that's when she said, you know what? Moving on from the diaphragm, we've got to get the pill here and in big numbers. And she helped finance the development and manufacturing of it in the beginning. She used a lot of her money. I think at the time it was probably only a couple $1 million, but that's about $20 million today. So she really was brave in how she fought to get birth control options into the United States. But she also, really was a financial force behind the pill. So I felt like she needed to be recognized because that's pretty badass.
She put her money and her resources so that people like you and I can chuckle out loud and say that diaphragms were Black market, and things like the pill are now you don't even think about it. It's a second thought, and it's not even a second thought. Oh, you need the pill? Okay.
Right.
That is it. It's just commonplace now because this woman took huge risks that she would not even realize in her lifetime would become so easy.
Yeah. Yeah. She's looking down from the heavens and hopefully smiling. Well, not completely, but the current situation. But yeah, she was creative and also really put her money where her mouth was, Yeah.
So thank you, Catherine.
Good one. Good one.
She has affected generations. So thank you, Catherine. The last two that I've picked, and we might have time for you to pick your favorites, but the last two that I picked are completely selfish. Fiery informers.
Oh, yeah.
And this one I picked because of my heritage. I am Hispanic. And so this one, I just love her and I love her story. And it is Jovita Adar.
Fighter for Mexican civil rights. Yes. So, gosh, where to start with her? Well, I think her father was known as a community leader and a civil rights activist, and he ran a family newspaper that was crucial, at the time, not only for Blacks, but Mexican Americans as well. And so as a young woman, she started out as a reporter, right from the get-go, writing about segregation and hot, topics at the time. And so in her mid-20s, she organized, I think it was the first Mexican Congress, which started the modern Mexican-American civil rights movement. I see why maybe you're interested in her. What else did you learn that you like about her?
Well, she's a feisty Hispanic, which I resemble that comment.
Yeah.
And she started something because she couldn't find it, so she made it herself. I also resemble that comment.
Yeah, for sure you do.
So that is why I picked her, because she is just for selfish reasons, because I like her. I think I'd like to, if I could, she'd be one of those people I'd like to have dinner with.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I believe, too, she was working at a newspaper called the El Progreso, and she wrote an article protesting the current president, his decision to send the U.S. troops to the border. And when the Army and the border security officials came to the newspaper's doors, Jovita stood her ground, did not let them in, and tried her best not to let them shut down the paper. So not only was she writing and fighting for civil rights, she was standing her ground to, not have them come in and, destroy what they were up to. So she was a very brave, person, an activist, journalist who really devoted to, obviously, equal rights to Mexican Americans, for sure, and to the education of Mexican Americans as well.
What years are these? Was she active?
Well, she was born in 1885 and died in 1946. And so, gosh, when she was in her 20s, I think she started out as a reporter. So it was just from her 20s all the way to 46 when she died, was she involved in this for pretty much her whole adult life.
But you could have written that yesterday.
Yeah, she was really brave.
Brave woman.
Yep.
Tessa agrees.
That's funny. She chimed in right at the right time.
She sure did. Tessa agrees. And this last one is very, very selfish, very personal, very near and dear to my heart. I will give you a couple of clues. I am a Gold Award recipient. I received a presidential recognition because of that Gold Award. I received a scholarship because of that Gold Award. And this last one is a server of the public, and it is Juliet Gordon Lowe, who was the creator of the Girl Scouts.
Yes. She's a good one. God. What was it? The Boy Scouts? Did you just hear in the news it's no longer the Boy Scouts? It's just called the Scouts.
Yes, because they
will the Girl Scouts now become Scouts too? Or how are they going to do that?
It won't happen. I shouldn't say that it won't happen. I don't believe that it will happen because it's against the charter of what the Girl Scouts stand for, of what Juliette Lowe believed in. And the Girl Scouts have always stood on the foundation of what she has created, which has always been about the promotion and leadership of girls and young women. They've always stayed true to that through from the day that they have started it to now for over 100 years. So I can't imagine
good point.
That they would change it today because it's trendy. It's for the development of from girls into women. So why would they change it? I just don't imagine that they would. I just described to you why it's so personal to me, because I worked really hard to get a gold award, and I got all this recognition for it.
Well, good on you. That's very cool. I love knowing that. Well, she came up with this cool idea of the Girl Scouts when she was like in her 40s. Her husband had died, and she just I think she lost most of her wealth too when he did. I have to check on how exactly that occurred, but she just said, you know what, I'm going to go travel. I'm going to France and Europe, and she even went to India. And in her 50s, she was in England, and she met a British general and war hero, and he was the founder of the Boy Scouts. And she loved the idea. And he told her about, there was a group there in England called the Girl Guides. And she thought, well, geez, I'm going to create those groups, more of those groups here. And then she ended up coming back to the United States and renamed it the Girl Scouts as an educational and service organization. So she was, you're right, really the impetus on how the Girl Scouts got to the United States. And she really worked for the Scouts until she died, I think in her 60s, early 60s of cancer. So yeah, she was supporting them all the way to her death, which I thought was a little too early, but that's how it goes.
Well, it's one of my favorite organizations on the planet. She has changed millions of girls' lives.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite troops is in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
It's Troop 6000. It is for homeless girls. One of my friends.
That's great.
Yes, it's one of my friends who also happens to be a Women in the Arena alumni. Shout out to you, Michelle. Her name is Michelle DeFeo. She is the CEO of Laurent Pierre Champagne here in the U.S. She is a scout leader for them. And she is also a motherless woman by choice.
Okay.
And she has chosen to be a scout leader for Troop 6000 for homeless girls. And so that is why she was why I wanted to pick her last, because Juliette Gordon Lowe changed millions of girls' lives and women's lives, and is still affecting lives now, decades after her death.
One of the pieces of trivia I love about her is she was buried in her Girl Scout uniform. I just love that.
Admittedly, I was never great at wearing that uniform. I ditched that uniform long ago and just wore the sash because I was like, eh. And then after that, I think I ditched the sash and I just saved the patches, and yeah, I was like, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good.
Well,
I don't want to keep going like that.
I have my sash and I had my badges, and I remember the first badge I got that went to the back of my sash, and I thought, oh, this is so cool. Let's keep going.
Oh my!
No, the other girls had more than me, but I liked the day where I went up to the back now.
And some girls had them on all over their jackets. Those are the ones that were like super cool.
Super cool.
So we have time for you to pick.
Gosh, I think when we spoke before, and you said, "Oh, who's some of your favorite?" And I said, "Well, gosh, I was over 300 and counting before I, and researching this, going, Laura, you have to stop." So to get it down to 100. So oh God, which one do I pick that I'm just in the mood for today? I mean, I love them all, of course, and like I said, I try to have there be high variety, world, global women, not just from certain countries, entertainment, photographers. Maybe I'll pick somebody from the photography chapter. I just learning about some, like the chapter is called Legendary Lens Women. And some of these in that chapter, there's examples of women who were war photographers, and some of the first to do photography for Life magazine. Catherine Leroy, she's one I guess I can showcase that I love learning about her. She was, at 21, she learned about the Vietnam War. And she was so moved by images she saw in magazines, she decided to go there herself. And she bought a one-way ticket to Laos, left with a camera and a couple $100.
Wow.
It was very, very, very rare at the time. Okay. So she wasn't a professional photographer, but she went to the Associated Press when she got there to see if she could, take photos for them. And they asked her, okay, what's your experience? And she said, well, she just lied and she said she had experience. They gave her the chance and she totally delivered. The thing that really was badass about her before this was she's one of the few women who had her parachutes license. And I think that's what gave her a little more gumption to go, I'm going over there and I'm going to get some pictures of what's really going on, because she knew she could get onto some planes, right? So, and she could parachute out of them, just like the guys did there. So she was one of the only journalists who did that, mind you, and a woman. So she was able to get like all kinds of shots that, you just can't get in combat, because she was able to parachute down. So she covered, conflicts later in Iran, Libya, just became internationally famous. But she had some, gumption to go really get into some dangerous situations and take photos. So that's one that I really love learning about. So.
That's amazing. Do you have?
Yeah. One more. We have
one. We have time for one more.
Oh, come on.
I know.
But what can we agree on? Maybe, let's see. How about maybe a creative type person? Who would be fun to talk about?
Oh, they're all fun to talk about.
That's true. Well, I have a chapter called Movement and Melody, where I highlight, movement as in dancers and the like, and then melody singers and songwriters and things like that. And there's a woman named Lizzie Douglas, she was a really, really popular country blues artist in a time when, women just didn't do that. But she was blessed with a really good voice, and at 10 she was already playing the banjo and be playing at parties at in her neighborhood. And but when she was about 13, she thought, I want to get out on the road and I want to do this. She ran away from home to Memphis to try to play music. Just okay, mind you, this is the early 1900s. This is really brave to do. So she started playing in street bands, cafes, clubs, and she made a name for herself. She even traveled with the circus, the Ringling Brothers Circus, when it was just getting going. And somebody found her. A talent scout from Columbia Records found her. And the rest is history. She just worked with some of the best premier blues guitarists and songwriters of the 30s and 40s. And she faced a lot of racism, in addition to and sexism, and she had to really just take a lot of what, but she was just stayed right up there with the top of the blues men in the field. And she's also remembered because she could whistle like the best of them. So she really could, integrate that into her songs as well. So she was a blues singer, and she helped to influence, rhythm and blues and rock and roll to come. So she was one of those forward women early on in country and blues. So she's definitely worth learning about. Yeah, she had some charisma and that something.
Could we take the leap and say that she might have influenced another childless woman by the name of Dolly Parton?
Very possible. Very possible. Yeah. And Dolly's been out there that she really consciously decided she wanted her career, and she knew that if she had a child, that it would just not be in the best interest of the child. So I love that she's out there and very vocal about it. Like, we need more, candid stories like that clearly the women give it thought. Bonnie Raitt's the same way. She's like, why would I have a kid and leave it, and have it be raised with, nannies and handlers? What good is that? So, women really think about it, and they choose what their priority is. And if it's their creative life, so be it. Yeah.
Well, clearly from these stories that we've shared, and this is just a fraction of the stories that are in this book, which you've only narrowed it down to 100. There are thousands more out there. This book just highlights 100 of them, and it's done so beautifully. Like I said, it's done in a way that it can be digested of all ages, and young women, young adults, teenagers, and for all of us. And it's beautifully illustrated, wonderful stories, and it's enough to get you interested in them and encourage you to go and do your own investigation of these women and learn more about them. That's what I love about this book. I'm so excited that you found me to do this.
One of the most challenging was to take all the information I learned with each woman and get it down to around 300 words or one page. So on one page is the narrative. The other page, the opposite page, is the illustration by just a very talented Talia Tuiva that I found. Just got so lucky. It was my first time working with an illustrator. It was really super fun. But I wanted it so you could just open it up. You see the picture, you do the narrative. Also, it's a book you can just open it and start anywhere. Start wherever you're inspired that particular day. It's easy to swipe on tablets and phones. It's, it's fun and easy. I think, thanks. I agree. I was really pleased with just how it worked out visually.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And before I let you go, because it's been such a joy having you here and allowing me to be the ambassador of these ladies' stories, because they're not here to tell their stories themselves. So thank you for allowing me to do that. Those of you that have been listening for a while, this is where I get the opportunity to sit back from the mic and give you an opportunity to have a direct, intimate moment with the audience without me interrupting. So you can have a moment directly with them to leave them with a lasting thought, a moment that they can take with them throughout their day, just something that you can say to encourage them while they're contemplating what they've been learning today, and just some thoughts and something they can think about. So, Laura, the mic is yours.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess just to keep going from a Special Sisterhood, it's really helping the importance of self-reflection and on what it is we really want and why we want it. And I think that's really important to think about when it comes to our decision around having kids, with women, whether we want to become mothers and fathers, to really ask more deep questions on why is it I think I might want them? Why am I not so sure? Why am I moving away from it? It's to really take more time to just not answer yes or no or yes and do what everybody else does, but to really look at the experiences that you're really looking for if you had children, and asking yourself, gee, is that the only way I can have that experience? So it's like looking more deeply at some of these really big decisions in our lives and using it as an opportunity to know oneself even more deeply. So that's one thing. And another is like the women in this book, sometimes you just gotta lead your life and move towards what you're most interested in, what you're drawn to. And in the end, if that didn't include kids, cool, fine. The good news is you've lived your life to its fullest, and just, go towards what is making you passionate and following your curiosities. And I firmly believe that you'll end up in the place that's, you'll be the most happy. So.
And you might just do something that changes generations.
Yeah,
you never know.
Never know.
Which might be super cool. You might be known for a really long time.
That's right.
Laura, thank you so much for being here. Just allowing me to help you tell these stories, because these stories need to be told. And since they're not here to tell them themselves, I'm so grateful that you allowed me to tell them. So thank you.
I really appreciate it. Yeah. Well, I thank you, Minnie.
And I want to thank all of you once again for being here. And we'll see you again next time. That's our show. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. It is my pleasure to be the ambassador of these women's stories. It is my hope that they inspire, that maybe they educate, and above all, that they make you feel like you're not so alone in this big world of ours. I'm hoping that you recognize yourself in these women, and that you feel maybe that you're not so different after all, and that you have lots of company, and that we're all standing together in this arena.